What is up, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Dense Pixels podcast. I'm with your host, Brad, joined by my co-host, Carrie.
What's up?
We are going to be talking about some merger talk. We're going to be talking about some Super Mario movie talk. We're going to talk some climate change later. But first, me and Carrie both finish Pentiment within hours of each other this weekend. And Carrie is much more worse off than I am in terms of emotional scarring.
Yo, that game like really rips your fucking heart out a couple of times.
It does. We're not going to go into spoilers because again, it's too good. It's too good to spoil for you. So
I won't. But basically, there's a character that shows up about halfway through this story, and basically, so this game in true Obsidian fashion has like persuasion checks over the course of the story that you sort of build up over time with people rather than like, okay, cool, you have an 85 in speech, so you can pass this persuasion check that's right here with this character that you just met 5 seconds ago. Like in Fallout.
It's obnoxious too. I think that a lot of those checks are very heavily weighted in specific outcomes because I had a lot of them where I had nothing but positive like things helping me, and I had like 5 or 6 of the little blue triangles on one side, and I'm like, oh, surely I'm going to pass. They're like, no, you failed. You keep failing over and over again. So,
yeah, there's like a key event that like you have to do with someone in order to convince them of something, you know, 3 hours later. But yeah, so basically what happens is probably the most devastating persuasion check of my entire life happens because the game shows you were too nice to this guy. Cool, you doomed him. Like it's like that popped up and I was like, no. Like, oh no. It's always like every bit of that game is me just going, oh no, the consequences of my actions. Oh no. Just a really, really beautiful experience. I saw a review today that made me roll my eyes. Because the person was complaining about like the lack of an addicting gameplay loop. And I was like, what the fuck do you think this is? Call of Duty? What did you want there to be? Shooting? Like, I have to push back against the idea that like every game needs an addicting gameplay loop. Like the thing that keeps you coming back to Pentiment is the intrigue, is the narrative. And this person was like, oh, well, it's hiding a mediocre experience behind pretty artwork. And I'm like, no, it's not. You're just boring.
and I mean, I like if you're not into the story, then you're not gonna like this game for sure.
I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, this is a game for everyone, because it's not. Because not everyone likes visual novels the same way that I do. But it really just like it again, like I couldn't help but just like roll my eyes at the whole idea of like someone complaining that all you do in a point and click visual novel is talk to people. Like, oh no, you're doing the thing that the developers want you to do. Oh, whoa.
And again, like I really enjoyed like I talked about this last week, but just, the personalities of all the characters in the game really shine through. And they're very unique, and I felt some kind of way about them. Like there's a character that you meet in the third act that's kind of like ever present throughout that act, and like I took a dislike to him right away, but he keeps like getting in your business.
I felt the opposite way. I took a bit of a shine to him. But here's the thing: depending on how you play out the third act, like the way that the credits happen, and because slight spoiler alert, I guess, like the credits sort of show you what happened to all of the characters that you interacted with after the events of the game, or at least certain things are implied through what is shown to you in the credits. So Brad and I did completely opposite things with that character, so our ending role was accordingly completely different as far as he was concerned.
And also like Act 3, so like Act 3 takes place a pretty decent amount of time after
18
Act
years
2.
after Act 2.
Yeah. I did enjoy how, because like you revisit a couple old characters from the previous acts, and like I said, there's some surprises with those characters as well. That was pretty fun and things of that nature as well.
there were some like really delightful surprises, and then there were some where I was like, "Oh no, buddy." Like, yeah, I mean, like again, the whole experience was just really amazing. I finished the game in, let's look,
I was at about 11
12
hours. Yeah.
12.1 hours for me. Um, and as soon as it was done, I was like, I just want to do it again and just like do
Oh,
things differently.
that's funny. Like I have no inclination to play this again because
I
I feel like
absolutely want to go back and do it again.
that's funny because like in my mind, like kind of like my story in that game is that's just the story of the game. I have no urge to go back and make like, what if I do this differently? Or what if I make this choice differently? Or what if I'm, what if my character, what if I play them like this and see how that changes things? Because I feel like that the end result is going to be kind of similar with
It's
some.
probably going to be
Yeah.
like the core plot is going to be like the same regardless. But like you have like Act 1 and 2 have like very distinct finales that change depending on what decisions you make.
Mhm.
And the game doesn't tell you if they're the right or wrong decisions. But like I am so curious to see like, okay, cool. Well, what if I chase down this thread instead? Like, what am I going to learn about these people that I didn't learn on my first playthrough?
Yeah.
Um,
There is I did notice one achievement. So like apparently like you can this is mild spoilery, but not really. You can end the first act with like the abbot like really happy about the thing that you did. So I'm
yeah.
kind of curious to know like what you have to do
Like,
to
what
get
do I
him on
have
your
to
good
do in
side.
order to, yeah, because I ended the game like out of favor with the Abbey, and I was like, well, that makes sense. Given what I did, that makes sense. I here's the thing. The I was surprised that the game lets you watch or
Mhm.
choose not to watch the execution of the person who you accuse of the
Did
crime.
you by the way, did you watch?
I couldn't watch
No,
because I didn't feel
it's
good
a good.
about it.
It's
I
a
didn't
good.
feel good about it.
It's a good thing you didn't. I will tell you that the executioner did a pretty bad job of doing what he was supposed to do.
Oh no. Yeah,
So
I just like it's when it gave me the option to look away, I was like, dude, I can't fucking watch this.
that's
Like
funny
it
because
just
like
it doesn't feel good.
well we both
I
picked
was
the same we both
we
picked the
picked the
same
same.
person,
Yeah,
but like I was very steadfast in my belief that this person was guilty, and so I
I
was like,
just
yeah, I'm gonna fucking watch him get his fucking head chopped off.
I was fairly convinced literally right up until the time where they let him out to the executioner's
Yeah,
block.
I
And
thought that was just the I thought that was just the pleadings
I
of
was like, no, like I fucked
the
up.
guilty.
Like,
Nah, nah. I was like, nah. This is the right call. This is the
no.
right call. So
Yeah, I want to go back. I want to choose different backgrounds this time and see what other options the game gives me as far as like dialogue choices that I didn't get on this first playthrough. I chose rhetorician as a background option
mhm.
because I was like, rhetoric, something I studied extensively in graduate school because I got my master's degree in professional writing. So I had to take a rhetoric course of some sort basically every semester of grad
Mhm.
school. I did an extensive dive into Cicero as part of my graduate studies. So I was delighted when the game gave me the option to cite the works of Cicero. But true to like Obsidian's narrative format, I was not socially rewarded for
Well,
citing the works of
I was in
Cicero.
the same boat because so like me being me, I dabbled in like every form of like faith and religion that I could. It's like, yes, like I believe in God, but also totally into this occult stuff that's going on.
Oh, I
Like this is
really
pretty
want to
dope.
do an occult
Yeah.
run next
And
time. I didn't pick that.
but I also picked I also picked that I was a logistician because I'm like, well, this is me in a nutshell. Let me tell
Okay.
you something. When you use the logical option, they're like, wow, you're
People
kind of a
don't fucking
douchebag. Like,
I love that the game gives you options
yeah.
based on your background. And because you're someone who has played video games before, your stupid dumb gamer brain goes, yes, clearly because this has this special icon next to it, this must be the dialogue option that is the most right in this situation. But hey, true to life, I was not rewarded for citing the works of Cicero because no one wants to hear that shit.
Later in the game, I picked the option where they're like, oh, your character's very like has a quick wit and like can skewer someone, and I'm like, oh, this makes sense. And then like every time that option came up, I'm like, wow, this is too harsh.
This is
like
mean.
like
I
I don't want to be this person.
I thought about it. I went tinkerer with her.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, legit, like I was so excited that a game gave me the option to talk about Cicero and to be pedantic about Cicero, and then was like slapped me on the wrist for doing so. It's just like, don't, no one wants to hear that shit, you stupid idiot. Like, no one cares. You're talking to peasants. They don't care about that.
No. And you're too highbrow. So yeah, Pentiment, real good. It has inspired me, and you have since you were so quick to buy this game last week, you have inspired me. I bought Paradise Killer. I will play through it at some point.
It was also like $8 last week.
Yes, it was, which is why I purchased it. So again, I'm good for another like dozen hour or so narrative game. Also, as soon as I finished Pentiment, like the other reason I was kind of blazing through that is because I wanted to start a new playthrough of Persona 5 on my Steam Deck, which I have done. I just finished the first palace in that game again. It's cool once you've played that game once. Like you can, like your playthrough the second time around is much more efficient, or at least on the stuff that I've done previously. So that's been good. Like I went through the first palace in about 3 to 4 hours less than it took me the first time I played.
Yeah, because you don't have to like figure the game out.
Right.
At this point, it's like, all right, cool, I know what I'm doing. Like, I know how the palaces work. I know how the stealth works. All that other shit.
It's funny too. So like I'm playing P5R, and when I first played it, it was just regular Persona 5. I've already noticed like a tremendous amount of things that they've added even through this first like playthrough, which is impressive because I really thought that the add-ons were just like that extra like arc that I know is in the game and characters. Yeah. And then maybe some like different items and stuff like that. But no, they actually added like new like different wrinkles to the existing fights and stuff like that in the game, and new things to collect in the palaces and stuff like that. Yeah. So that because I was like Streisanding affecting myself, where as I was going through, or not, is the Streisand effect? No, it's Mandela effect. No. I'm thinking of. I was Mandela affecting myself, where I'm just like, was this in the first playthrough? Like I don't remember this, but it must have been because it has to be the same palace. And then once I did the boss fight against Kamoshida, like there was a distinct new part of that fight that was definitely not in the first game. And I was like, all the boss fights are a little different. Yeah, this is totally new. So that was cool, and I'm glad that that's there because it helps keep things fresh from the parts that I've already played, which is not, only like the first third of the game, but it'll be nice to have those extra little things in there.
Yeah, P5R is great, and then you can go and play Strikers.
Yeah, I mean, I already own it, so
dude. Strikers is super fun because it does serve as a direct sequel story-wise. I would not play it until you finish P5R. It's actually a sequel to Vanilla P5 because like the extra characters don't show up. But regardless, like finish the story and then go play Strikers. Strikers is a ton of fun too. But I'm glad you're playing Persona 5 Royal, and I'm glad you're having a good time because it's a great game.
Yeah.
I finished Pokemon Scarlet
already.
Yeah.
Like I saw that you put that in the docket. I'm just like, it's only been out for like 2 weeks, hasn't it? If that.
Yeah, like 2 weeks.
That's a lot of Pokemoning in a short amount of time. How long did it take you to beat the game?
I haven't looked at my hours, if I'm being completely honest with you. Yeah, I mean, I did not find the game to be particularly difficult. Even like the sort of end game story content, because after you finish the main 3 storylines, the Starfall Street, the Victory Road, and Path of Legends, there's like, hey, there's some shit going down inside that big crater that we've all been ignoring for the last 35 hours. Why don't you go check that out? And sure enough, there's some shit going down inside that crater, and that's the sort of end game final bit. But like even that only takes like 3 hours to do. Like it's not a super long thing. I enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed all the characters. I thought Arvin's storyline is probably one of the best written things that has occurred in any Pokemon game
Hmm.
in terms of like his relationship to other characters, why he's doing what he's doing, his motivations and whatnot. He's a really compelling guy. I really liked his storyline. And then the other two sort of like main supporting characters are Penny and Nimona. And Penny is okay. I think her character design is atrocious, but she's the central character of the Starfall Street story. And it's like, I get what they were trying to go for with the Team Star stuff, and they executed it like they got like 75% of the way there.
Hmm.
It just could have used some finessing to be a little more convincing or involved. I think for me, the Starfall Street gameplay stuff was probably the weakest, simply because of the fact that like it it was five things that were exactly the same thing
Hmm.
over and over and over again. Like you run into a Team Star base, you have to defeat 30 Pokemon using 3 of your Pokemon in like the quick battle thing within 10 minutes, which 30 Pokemon in 10 minutes, like if you say it out loud and like it seems like it's going to be a challenge, and then you finish every single one within like 90 seconds.
Hmm.
And then you have to fight one of the Team Star bosses who roll out on these big souped up vehicles, and basically it's like a gym leader fight. Team Star did have the best music though. Far and away the best music. The Team Star boss music fucking rules. Um but it didn't feel like, it felt like I did exactly the same thing 5 times.
Hmm.
Whereas like at least the gym leader stuff, the stuff that you do before the gym leader fight is different at every single gym. Like sometimes you fight another couple of people, sometimes you have to go do a different kind of challenge, like a scavenger hunt or something like that. But regardless, it's like a different thing every time. And the Titan battles are like, they're all similar in so much that like you're fighting a huge Pokemon, but like it feels different enough because like the typing is so different every time. And because the Pokemon is so big, it
Hmm.
feels like more of a threat. Um, so yeah, I what's sort of cool is like after you do everything, you're like, cool, you're a top champion now. Congratulations, we're sending you off to do some work for the Pokemon League. We need you to go and do an assessment at all 8 of the gyms and just make sure that all the gym leaders are like keeping everything up to snuff. So they have you rematch
So
all of the gym
you become the Pokemon League district manager.
yeah, you become the district manager of the Pokemon League. And they send you off to the 8 gyms to basically do like a high level, like mid 60s level rematch with all of the 8 gym leaders, which is kind of fun because like all of their teams have changed since you fought them the first time and are all like at minimum 20 levels higher than
Hmm.
when you fought them the first time. So it's kind of neat. There's that. And then after you do that, you unlock the sort of like repeating post game battle thing where it pulls in 4 random trainers so that you can like defend your title or whatever.
Hmm.
um I am more interested in like exploring more of the world of Paldea that like I didn't do before. But again, the problem is the game is so fucking janky that that I am not super incentivized to spend a lot of time like going around Paldea again because I find it to be somewhat of a chore
Yeah, and
to
I and
play a
I'd have
game that
to
runs so bad.
and I'd have to imagine that like by the time DLC comes out for this game, like they'll have patched it up and it'll probably run a lot better, and it'll
Yeah.
probably be more enjoyable to go through then. And if you're worried, like if you're like, wow, with all the criticism this game's received with how it runs, like I'm sure that Game Freak is and the Pokemon Company have learned their lesson. Probably not. This apparently Scarlet and Violet have sold more than 10 million copies in the
Yeah,
first couple
it's
weeks of
sold
launch.
fucking gangbusters.
Yeah, so they're just like
Unsurprisingly.
they're just like, no, we'll just continue putting it out in this state, and it'll be totally fine because we're gonna sell it like crazy.
I mean,
It is interesting that Pokemon has kind of a really insulated user base in a lot of ways because as I heard it, as I heard someone else bring up, they've retained like all the people who have grown up playing Pokemon, and they just keep adding new people to play Pokemon because new kids, like as kids get older, they're just like, oh, like what's this Pokemon that is all the haps on the street, and they just they retain people like Carrie, and they bring on new 8 to 10-year-olds every year to play these games.
So yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking forward to DLC for this game because if what they did with Sword and Shield is any indication, there will be DLC. Plus, there was DLC for Arceus that was free. They did that free update. So I don't know if they're going to do like a small scale free update. It's probably going to be more in the line of what they did with Sword and Shield with the paid expansion passes, though. But either way, I will be there for it, and I will be more than happy to do it because, again, as you said, the game has got to run better by the time that they roll out DLC.
It can't run any worse, at least. So you've at least seen the bottom of the barrel, so it can only go up from here. That's excellent, though. So I'm glad that the game is fun. And again, technical issues aside, everyone seems to say that it's one of the better.
That's the thing, right?
Out recently,
Again, like the game is like ridiculously fun, and there's so many good things about it. It just runs like shit. So, if they are able to patch some of the performance issues, they'll have a real gem of a game on their hands. But if not, everyone will just complain and still pick it up and buy the DLC when it comes out anyway, because we're all idiots. So, what am I gonna do? Not play the new Pokemon shit? No, I'm gonna play it. I'm obviously going to play it. I've been doing this for 24 years, Brad. Like, they've had me for 24 goddamn years of my life, and they could not fix a damn thing. The game could run worse with DLC, and I would almost certainly still buy the DLC because Game Freak has had me by the ass since 1998.
Yeah, this is basically becoming, or this is how I was with FIFA for a long time. I'm like, I don't really care what FIFA looks like. I'm gonna buy it and play it every year, of course. Like, well, what do I do? Am I not gonna play FIFA? Like, you must be crazy. So, very cool. But that's that's the new stuff. Well, not new stuff. That's the stuff that we've still been playing after last week. So, very cool.
Cool. Well, if you want to come talk about Pokemon or Pentiment or whatever else you've been playing, you can do that over at our Discord. So if you head to densepixels.com/fans, that takes you to the Dense Pixels Podcast Discord, and you can come hang out and talk about video games, or you can do what more people have been talking about over the last week, which is talk about the World Cup and F1 racing.
More on that in the post office.
More on that in the post office. We'll talk about World Cup soccer over there. And in the meantime, while you are on this terrible service called the internet, you can go to youtube.com/10pixels and check out the video version of this podcast. And while you're there, hit subscribe. And while you're subscribing to stuff, subscribe to all of the TNP Studios podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, including the Nerdpocalypse, Black on Black Cinema, Coming Distractions, and the weekly preview episode of Work Look Forward. But if you want to help us out a little bit and help keep the lights on here at the Dense Pixels podcast caves that we do these out of, go to densepixels.com/premium, and for $5 a month or $50 for the year, you get access to the premium slate of podcasts, which include the Airing of Grievances, No Time to Bleed, The Men with the Golden Tongues, Upstage Conversation, and full episodes of the Look Forward Political Podcast. And Brad, I think you and I are going to start this terrible action movie. You pick a movie and I have to watch it.
Yeah,
kind of podcast.
It's gonna be great. Like it keeps. It's the idea is too good. The idea is too good. So
yeah, it'll happen.
Yeah, it'll happen. And again, we might have to do that in like a watch along format, so that
that might be something we do like on the Discord. Yeah. So you guys can participate in that. So stay tuned for more. And we move to the news where well, this hasn't been confirmed yet, but in rumors that I find absolutely unsurprising, the Microsoft acquisition of Activision is probably about to face a major FTC lawsuit.
Yeah, so it's getting scrutinized, and a lot of people made a lot of hay about the fact that the Federal Trade Commission, which is the U.S. regulatory agency for companies, is going to sue them. And people are like, oh my God, it's going to stop the deal from happening. That's probably not the case. Like typically when the FTC sues a company, as they're trying to complete like a massive merger. It's not to stop it from happening. It's more so to get specific concessions from them, just to make sure that the merger is not going to be in any competitive state. I don't think this is surprising, considering especially Jim Ryan of Sony has been doing everything he possibly can to slow or stop this merger from happening, especially in Europe, where you might say that they have somewhat of a home court advantage because Jim Ryan is based in the EU, to the point where Microsoft has even said that they're probably going to be soon making a lot of formal concessions to the EU in terms of this deal. We haven't really been talking about it on the show because there's just been a lot of like sniping back and forth in the media. Jim Ryan's big thing, or at least what he's saying the big thing is that he's worried that if this merger goes through, that one day Call of Duty will not be available on PlayStation consoles. I think personally, Jim Ryan doesn't believe that. I really don't think he believes that, because it's not in Microsoft's interest to not have Call of Duty, of all things, on PlayStation consoles.
Right.
What I think Jim Ryan is actually concerned about is he's actually concerned that Call of Duty will end up on Game Pass day one, which is a huge value proposition for people buying an Xbox over a PlayStation when choosing which console they would like to buy. That's what Jim Ryan is actually concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, I find it very funny that basically this sort of back and forth between Sony and Microsoft has basically been being, we suck, no, we suck, no, we suck. Like,
that's right, Jim Ryan. But like, well, the best one of all time had to have come over this past week, where one of Jim Ryan's arguments to like the EU trade commission is, be a really bad idea if Microsoft were to have all this power and have all these exclusive franchises, because if they do, you might see them raise the prices of console hardware and software in the marketplace. Not even just completely moving on past the fact that Sony just raised prices on PlayStation consoles literally months ago in every territory except for North America, basically.
Yeah. Microsoft out here is defending themselves by saying that their own exclusive games suck compared to Sony's. Saying that Sony has more exclusive games than Microsoft, many of which are of better quality. Citing iconic first-party franchises such as God of War and Uncharted, and that PlayStation has nearly 5 times as many exclusive titles as Xbox. And then Sony came back by saying, oh, but like Game Pass leads PlayStation Plus significantly. Like Microsoft has such a lead on us in game subscription services. We can't possibly keep up with them. And it's just like,
well, the other great part of Sony's like, if we lose Call of Duty, like, what are we gonna do? Like, what are we gonna like showcase the Battlefield series on PlayStation? The Battlefield series is terrible. Like, why would we
just like dragging EA kicking and screaming into this argument just to throw them under the bus?
And again, like, I don't think Jim Ryan honestly thinks that he can stop this merger from happening.
No.
He's doing what his job is, and he's fighting and scrapping for every concession that he can possibly get out of the deal. It's reported that Microsoft either has offered or is going to offer Call of Duty for 10 years on PlayStation as part of this agreement, which Jim Ryan was like, not good enough. I need this to be
forever.
I need a contract that says until the heat death of the universe, Call of Duty will be on PlayStation. And Microsoft's, one of their counters to that is like, well, look, we can't put an agreement in place that says it's going to be on PlayStation forever, because what if in 15 years PlayStation's not a console, but it's like a cloud service, and like we don't know what the future holds, so we can't say that it'll perpetually be on there for all times. I just find it really hilarious that like Jim Ryan and his fucking consigliaries were all probably in a room, and they're like, what's the most effective area of attack that we can use to fight this merger? And they're just like, Call of Duty. Like, that's the one that's gonna fucking nail it into the ground. And so it's inviting a lot of scrutiny from these regulatory agencies. I think 2 of the 12 agencies worldwide that need to sign off on this deal have approved so far. And I think those were like Brazil and Saudi Arabia were the 2 big ones. So, but again, like a lot of people are like, oh, like the U.S. government's going to sue them. Again, it's not going to stop it from happening.
No.
It's partially A, to get some concessions. 2, Lena Khan is the new chair of the FCC. She is kind of thought of as like someone who's really going to be a lot more aggressive towards corporate America in terms of these deals. So this is a great like showpiece for her to be able to kind of, you know, show that she's teeth, essentially, if that makes sense, and look strong in terms of, you know, getting some stuff. You'll see some concessions. I'm sure you'll see some sort of arrangement around Call of Duty and possibly some other titles in the Activision Blizzard stable that have to be like guaranteed, or, you know, something along those lines. I don't think it's going to stop it from happening. There's no reason really to stop it from happening. Ultimately, like again, like I'm sorry, but this merger would not like tilt the balance of power in the video game industry to, you know, firmly in Microsoft's camp. That's just not, to their point. Like Sony has all these great first party franchises already that aren't likely to stop coming out with games and being good. So we'll see what happens with that, but I just find it interesting that the FTC is going to be wading into the mix with what's going on. So I'm sure Jim Ryan's happy though. I'm sure he's fucking thrilled. After Climate is a research and consultancy business that is, quote, on a mission to decarbonize the games industry. And they have done a report that they put out last week that basically looks at how big publishers in the game industry are doing in terms of combating climate change, or in the case of some companies, not doing very good work at all. So the ones like at the top of the list, they're labeled as, quote, ambitious companies. Couple examples here: Microsoft, Ubisoft, Apple, Google, Embracer Group, Tencent, and Riot. Tencent, a bit surprising, but I guess that's good news if Chinese companies are getting in on the act here. Not too surprised about the other ones. I would expect Microsoft and Apple and Google to be on this list, and I'm glad that Embracer Group is stopping in the midst of all of their companies that they're acquiring to also worry about the fate of the future of the planet down the road. The next group is basically what they call the baseline group. These are the guys that are just like ticking the boxes, like doing what they have to do. Right. That's Sony, Activision Blizzard, Konami, Sega, and Bandai Namco. So those are the companies that are doing that. So again, they could do better, but they're at least doing what they need to do. The third group of companies that they called out are groups that need to, quote, catch up. So these are companies that are lagging behind where they need to be. That would be NetEase, Zynga, Take-Two, EA, and Nintendo is also on that list as well. Again, they can't put out a well-performing Pokemon game, so we shouldn't be surprised there. And then there's a few companies that are in what they call the non-compliance group. These are companies that are in the absolute bottom tier. And according to this study, quote, these are the underperformers of the games industry. These businesses are exposing themselves to significant risk from climate impacts, as well as threatening their brand integrity and social license to operate in an increasingly environmentally conscious world. Those would be Nexon, Roblox, and Square Enix, of all companies, which I find deliciously ironic considering that their biggest game, or their most well-known game, is literally about the dangers of a evil corporation destroying the environment.
Yeah. Also worth noting, two of the biggest video game players in the market, being Valve and Epic, could not be graded at all since they release absolutely zero data or information about their climate impact, nor have they made any promises to address it in the future.
Yeah.
So I would say Valve and Epic are just as equally a big a deal as Square Enix.
Yeah, and especially more so because, again, those guys are running like commerce sites basically, which are going to generate a lot of usage and things like that. So I would definitely like to know where they sit.
Here's the thing about this sort of study, though, is that this is all based on, like, you know, reports that come out probably during quarterly earnings and whatnot, where these companies say, hey, this is our date for net zero carbon emissions, and here's what we're planning or thinking about doing in order to get there. That's all it's really basing this on. So what it means is that, like, Nintendo hasn't come out and said, hey, this is what we're doing. And then 3 months from now, they could say, hey, this is what we're doing. And they could just leapfrog to the top of this kind of list and whatnot. Meanwhile, maybe some folks who are in that ambitious group could fall back down if they fail to meet any of these sort of standards that they've decided to set for themselves. So I find this very interesting to see the kind of companies that are coming out and saying like, hey, yes, this is an issue and this is what we're going to do in order to not be as much of a part of the problem. But I'm not taking this sort of study as gospel simply because of the fact that it's just like, all right, well, like you can say you're going to do this shit, but like actually doing it is something different.
Not me. I'm going to flagrantly use this opportunity to slander Square as hard as possible. Not only are they non-compliant with helping prevent climate change, they are trying to go full bore into NFTs. Also, a pretty damaging
really
climate.
They're really fucking trying,
yeah.
And it's not going to go anywhere. And that shit's going to be dead on arrival.
Right. So I could not imagine a more climate irresponsible take. To be like, not only do we not care about this shit, but we are also going to actively work against it. Yeah. so fuck Square. Literally play your own video game and come back and see us in a couple of years.
Well, I think it definitely goes to show the let's call it distance between the people who run the company and the people who actually make their games.
That's true.
Because the fucking C-suite level executives are generally not the people actually making the games at any of these companies. So if you want to give money to a terrible corporation, you can do that by going to densepixels.com/Amazon. You can do your little Christmas shopping and whatnot. You can get that Prime delivery, and you can continue to give money to a corporation that is almost certainly doing irreparable damage to the environment all over the planet, and doesn't pay enough in taxes. But you shop through that densepixels/Amazon link, and then we get a little bit of that, so you can feel like a little bit less bad. But hey, look, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so fuck it. Live your best life.
That's got to be our official slogan for the Amazon read. densepixels.com/Amazon. You're gonna shop there anyway.
Yeah, you're gonna shop there anyway. That you're gonna get a good deal on one of those flash sales on something that you need for your fucking in-laws, and you're gonna get it half off, and it'll come with free shipping, and it'll be a good beep boop, no thoughts, head empty purchase. But if you're gonna have that smooth brain about your purchasing habits during the holiday season, at least do it through us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
And that takes us to the dense pixel. No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. We're gonna briefly talk about
we have to talk about the Super Mario trailer that came out today.
Again, the movie looks perfect. Like, it'll be perfectly fun. I am really struggling to get past Chris Pratt and his voice. I feel
like I'm the only person on the planet who like doesn't hate Chris Pratt as Mario. Like,
it just feels it feels, I don't know, it just feels so forced. Like at the end of the trailer, like he's driving in like the fucking Mario Kart and he's like the Yahoo! Woo-hoo! Like it just doesn't sound. It just sounds like he's trying too hard and yet not hard enough.
I don't care for Mr. Chris Pratt as like a person.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a good person.
And yet he keeps being forced into these properties and movies and shows that we love.
Yeah.
That son of a bitch.
I don't hate his Mario voice. I'm not going to sit here and say that I love his Mario voice, but it's not intolerable, you know? I can get through a movie with his voice. Yeah. Especially knowing, like, we got that Jack Black Bowser.
Mm-hmm. Which
Jack
is very
Black
good.
Bowser is great. It's great. It's everything I've wanted.
Yeah.
Charlie Day Luigi. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Flawless.
Yeah.
I forget who's voicing Peach, but I like her.
Anya Taylor-Joy, I think is who it is. Yeah.
Who the fuck ever that is. I like a Peach that's a little mean. And she came off a little mean in that trailer. So I think I like Peach more in the movie than I like Peach otherwise.
Are we about to get deluged with fucking like right wing incel posts about like the fact that she's capable and not
Yes,
like a damsel in distress?
100%. The fact that she like flipped a fucking halberd into her hand walking down a hallway. Yes, absolutely. There's going to be some virgin out there who's mad about that. Some guy with a weird penis is going to be very upset about Princess Peach.
By the way, saw a still of one of the scenes in the Donkey Kong arena thing. Diddy and Dixie are in the crowd.
Yeah.
In the still that I saw.
More importantly,
it's cool.
We got motherfucking Funky Kong in this trailer.
I didn't catch that.
Kong. Yeah, Funky Kong is when everyone's in their fucking Mad Max carts at the end.
Oh, okay.
Funky Kong is like clearly visible over Mario's shoulder, and I'm like, all right, cool.
See, my favorite part of Funky Kong in 2 though was the music at the Funky's flights. Had a pretty dope tune to it. Again, this movie's fine. I'm sure it'll be fun to watch. Will I see it in theaters? I don't know. If we get a screener, maybe.
I feel like you and I are going to end up going to the screener.
Yeah, like maybe we can petition Jay to have us go review it. And that'll be fine. And again, it's not going to be bad. Keegan-Michael Key, I think, is also going to be pretty good as Toad. So that's, like I said, except for Chris Pratt, I feel like the voice cast is solid. I feel like it's good to go.
I was disappointed that we didn't get like any of Seth Rogen's Donkey Kong like voice. Like we saw Donkey Kong, but we didn't hear Donkey Kong. But the film comes out in April. I think it's going to be a delightful time. Like, again, I have to rein myself in. This is not a movie for me. This is a movie for children. With probably enough in it to keep me up to speed here. But look, there's a lot of folks in the voice cast who I like. Jack Black, Charlie Day, Seth Rogen, Keegan-Michael Key. We've neglected to mention that we do see a little bit of Cranky Kong, who will be voiced by Fred Armisen. So I think it looks great. I love the way all of the different kingdoms clearly look here. So look, I'm in. My biggest concern is just like, is this a fucking isekai anime of a movie? Is this like Mario and Luigi, who are just normal human guys in New York City, get like sucked into another world and have to save it? Is that what we're doing here? Because
you're telling me Nintendo is going to try to right the wrong that was the Super Mario Brothers live action movie from
100%. Also, that wasn't a wrong. That movie's brilliant. What the fuck are you talking about?
I've not watched that movie in a really long time. I don't think
I've ever actually seen it.
I have trouble believing the fact that movie is brilliant. I think it's just actually bad. Like, it's not like the Street Fighter movie, which is bad, but it's also like so bad it's good kind of thing. I think the Mario Brothers movie is just really not good at all.
Yeah.
So, apparently John Leguizamo was out here like really upset that they didn't ask him to come back and voice Luigi. Like he's like I'm the definitive voice of Luigi.
Here's the thing. I think it would have been very funny for them to like bring him in for a vocal cameo, and I'm a little surprised that they didn't do that. Particularly given the breadth of other voice work specifically he has done in the intervening years. I cannot help but be surprised that they did not ask him for anything. Like Charlie Day Luigi is 100% the way to go in the year of our Lord 2K22. But I'm surprised that he has zero involvement.
Yeah.
But
who knows?
Whatever. He's got that fucking Disney money. Well, shut up, dude.
Yeah, he's fine. We go to the post office. T-Watch says, have any of you played the sequel for a game first, and then played the prequel to that game next, and that changed your opinion on a character or a story? They say that happened to them with Def Jam, New York, and Vendetta. I don't know, because I'm trying to think, because obviously most games don't actually, no, I do have it, because I definitely played through Mass Effect 2 and 3 before I played through Mass Effect 1. And then when I went back and played through Mass Effect 1, I learned two things. One, Caden, not lame. Ashley, massive space racist. So did not get that impression from them when you run into them in 2 and 3. So I guess that would be my because you always hear like, oh, Caden sucks, he's so lame, like he's definitely the person that I'm going to send to die in the mission where you have to choose between the two of them. And most people are like, oh, Caden's fucking terrible, and I'm like, oh, I never got to see Caden because I heard he sucked, and then once I actually got to know him, I'm like, you know what, Caden, you're actually pretty cool.
Same developer. I played Dragon Age Inquisition before I played 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't finish 1 or 2 because those games have aged like milk.
That's true.
Those games are not fun to play.
Micah would be upset to hear you say it about 1, but I think he'd have to at least acknowledge that the gameplay is.
But like that's it. It's like if
least,
if the games played the same. Yeah, it didn't really super duper impact the way that I feel about most characters. I would say. Liliana I thought was sort of meh in Inquisition, and I thought her involvement in Origins made her like a little bit cooler. And Morgan I thought was cool as shit just based on her appearance in Inquisition, and then she's like a fucking badass witch babe in Origins too. So I was just like, so she's always been really cool.
Yeah, reaffirmed your
cool.
your predispositions.
100%. Yeah,
makes sense. So Dan, we did not talk at all about the Game Awards.
I completely forgot about the Game Awards.
We were too busy with Pentiment, which came out too late to be considered. I have to imagine that it's going to be a contender for the 2023 Game Awards. But Daniel posted an image of the nominees for Best Fighting Game, and this is a worthy discussion.
I did see this.
I do kind of wish Micah was here because I'd be very interested to get his take. Here are the nominees for Best Fighting Game at the Game Awards: DNF Duel, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, King of Fighters 15, Multiverses, the likely winner, and Sifu.
Yeah,
notably, not a fighting game.
No. If Sifu is a fighting game, then Yakuza is a fighting game. If Sifu's a fighting game, then River City Ransom's a fighting game. Like, are we qualifying any game in which you fight as a fighting game?
Here's one for you. If Sifu's a fighting game, the Batman Arkham franchise is a fighting game because it's kind of the same sort of milieu in terms of like how the fighting takes place. Spider-Man is a fighting game.
Yeah. No, Sifu is not a fighting game, and it should not have been nominated for this category.
Yeah, Johnny points out, he's like, well, they need a 5th nominee. No, you don't. Like, just have 4. If there's only 4 qualified fighting games that came out, then just nominate 4 games. Like, you don't have to force a nominee in there just to fill out the category.
No, Sifu, like, here's the thing, is if Sifu had a versus mode, that would be one thing.
I feel like to be considered a fighting game, that is the bare minimum prerequisite that you need. You at least need a 1v1 mode of some kind.
Like, by fighting games in my 33 years of existence on this hell of an earth have always been, minimum 1v1 multiplayer combat. Or 1v computer. But regardless, it's like you're on a stage and you control a character and you go over the course of like matches or rounds to see who is the victor. Sifu is a beat 'em up. A beat 'em up is a game in which you fight. But it doesn't make it a fighting game.
Like I feel like I would have been more okay with them putting like the Street Fighter 6 beta as like as like the nominee.
Like fucking anything.
So yeah, needless to say, I disagree with the inclusion of Sifu. Watch it win now stupid. Because that would just be fucking hilarious. Rogue G asks me, since F1 is over for a while, I'm curious as to what, if anything, you change to make next season more exciting down the stretch. Personally, I changed the scoring system so we don't end up with teams that are hundreds of points ahead of the others. So F1 used to have a much more compacted scoring system. So Carrie, since you don't know this, the way the scoring works in F1 is that if you win a race, you get 25 points. Second place gets 18. Third place gets 15, and then it's like 12, 10, 8, and on from there. The top ten finishers get points of some kind from 25 down to 1. But obviously it's not in sequential increments. The problem here is that Max Verstappen, the champion of this season, and Red Bull, the constructors champions, did so good and won so many races. Max Verstappen won 15 races over the course of the year, that the title was mathematically stitched up with about 5 races left to go in the season. And even though it was not a mathematical certainty, about halfway through the season, we're like, all right, no one's catching Max this year. Like it is done and dusted, as far as that goes. So F1 used to have a more compacted points scoring structure. It used to be in F1 that I believe the top 6 teams scored points, and those points ran from like 10 down to 1 for the top 6. I don't necessarily think that that's the problem, though. I think having a wider points range is actually better late in the season, because it can lead to wild comebacks perhaps happening out of nowhere. I think the problem is that Red Bull just had the best car far and away this year. It took Mercedes just didn't have, like, they had a reliable car, but they just didn't have the speed to compete this year. And Ferrari had the speed, but their engines were blowing up every other week, and so that's a problem. So I think this season would have been a lot more interesting if Ferrari just had a better engine. And not only was like Ferrari, like the main team had problems with their engines had problems up and down the grid all season, because Ferrari also is a manufacturer that basically other teams can buy their engines and put them in their cars that don't have the money or the R&D to develop their own engine. So Ferrari engines had a major problem all year long. They were extremely unreliable. That's really why we had such a runaway season for Red Bull. Like, how many races did Leclerc not finish? How many races did Carlos Sainz not finish? That's what did it. So I think next season, we just need Mercedes to find the performance that they had in the last couple races of this year more consistently across the season, and Ferrari to actually get a decent engine that will last and still perform well. Now, their team principal just resigned today, so that's probably not a great thing. Their team principal, Carrie, is basically the team's head coach. Okay. So that's not ideal. So that's probably not going to get them started on the right foot next season. But again, I think just having those top teams act like the top teams is what we need to have an intriguing season. And also, don't expect 2021 ever again, because that was an anomaly, and it's never going to come down to the last race like that very often. Yeah. So he asks you, Carrie, that Pokemon ending is wild, and Nimona is just a tad too excited to see you all the time.
Yeah, Nimona is sort of like your de facto rival, because she's sort of the existing like top champion student at your academy, and she's the sort of like prodigy trainer and whatnot, but she's just like super stoked to have a rival, and so she like meets you at all the different gyms, and she's just like, oh, I'm so excited you're here. Yeah, I mean, obviously she's your fucking girlfriend, so just deal with that. Yeah, the ending, I don't really want to talk spoilers quite yet. The ending is pretty bonkers. I would say that the ending, it feels unearned. Like, if they had been sort of alluding to what's happening in the crater and like what's really going on behind the scenes with like the professors and whatnot, if that had been like hinted at throughout any of the storylines beforehand, that would have been cool. But like, they didn't do that. So like, you get to the end of the game and there's like a massive immediate lore dump, and you're like, holy shit, what is going on? And then like, you have like the sort of final boss fights, and then the credits roll, and it felt a little unsatisfying because it didn't feel like it was anything that was built up to. So from like a pure storytelling standpoint, like I didn't love it. I thought the area was cool, and I thought the end fight was really neat. And like, man, like the final boss music is just like super, super, super good. God, all the music in this game is fabulous. But Yeah, I don't know. From like a pure narrative standpoint, I thought it was just like a little weird. And again, if it would have been very easy for them to like drop little hints here and there and like sort of set all these threads for you to chase down at the end of the game, but they didn't really do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was kind of wild, pretty weird.
T-Wash also asks, what game mechanic do you wish there was more of in other games? I wish there were more games like Godhead that let you pick your own moves to make specific combos. I feel like we've gotten this question or a variant of it before. I will say that I think Ghost of Tsushima and Elden Ring both proved that open world games don't need this reliance on this, like having a mini map that has like shit, pockmarked all over it. And you don't have to have this like oppressive, like compass system with all these like dots and points of interest and shit like that in open world games anymore. I think that those games prove that you can give a lot more room to the player to just explore their surroundings and to kind of let the exploration unfold naturally instead of guiding them, heavy-handedly towards the things that you want them to kind of be pointed towards. So I'd really like to see more games like really take the reins off the player a little bit and just kind of let them explore open worlds as they want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. I also can't imagine there's many other times where the phrase "I wish there were more games like God Hand." I can't imagine that's been. I don't think that's a series of words that's ever been written out like that too terribly many times. So,
anything for you?
No, I mean, I would be inclined to just sort of agree with you on that. Outside of that, I like T-Wash's suggestion, games that let you pick your own moves to make specific combos. Like, let me cater my play style the way that I want to play.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if sometimes not every game is served by that, but there are certainly more games out there that I think should let you do that don't let you do that. So, yeah.
Trey asks, with the Keeleys right around the corner, is it okay to riot if there is no Spidey 2 trailer? I'll even take another teaser at this point.
I don't think it's ever okay to riot. Like, this whole like instant gratification, like when, where's my fucking video game? I don't love that attitude that some people tend to have about like super hyped upcoming games, whether it be Spider-Man 2 or Breath of the Wild 2 or anything of that sort. It's just like, let them make the goddamn video game. Like this whole like I want it right now sort of attitude that unfortunately a lot of video game fans tend to have about their beloved properties. That's what leads to crunch. That's what leads to rushed products. That's what leads to game developers setting unreasonable deadlines and then not being able to meet them and stuff. So we all know Spider-Man 2 is happening. We're all assuming it's going to be as good, if not better, than the first Spider-Man game, as well as the Miles Morales glorified expansion pack. And look, it'll be ready when it's ready.
Yeah.
I have chosen not to stress out about it.
And I understand the desire to see as much as you can and as often as you can. I would say based on the fact that it's supposed to come out probably in the fall next year, I would not expect anything at the Game Awards. I think Sony will hold that until the summer, and kind of present that on their terms. Also, with something that's as big as Spider-Man, I would think that Sony would want to have that at their own, like on their own event or state of play.
That feels like a state of play anchor or an E3 anchor.
Yeah. So I don't think you will get anything. But trust in Insomniac. When was the last time Insomniac put out a bad game? Like Fuse, back in like 2011 or whatever that game came out. They made that game? They did. Yes. It was a misguided effort on their part. By their own admission. Huh. But that was the last. I would argue that's the last bad game that Insomniac has. That was
2013.
Okay.
I remember that game coming out.
So, Ricky asks, I should say, how embarrassing is it for Qatar to lose all 3 games in the World Cup and be the first country eliminated since last week. They're the first host country, by the way, to do that poorly in the World Cup. He also asked how we feel about Mexico. Mexico is certainly not in a good position.
I think Mexico's a great place. I think they've got lovely people, lovely cuisine, lovely beaches.
I don't think that. I think they need too much to break right for them to get out of the group stage of the World Cup. Here's the thing, like, it's not embarrassing for Qatar. You know why? Because the fact that the World Cup is even there is the victory. Like the fact that they get this massive sports washing, the fact that even like the American broadcasts, like on Fox, like they're not doing any criticism of Qatar. They're not talking about any of the issues surrounding the World Cup.
Everyone is simply ignoring all of the human rights atrocities.
Well, but do you know why Fox is specifically? Because Fox was going to have their studio team based in Los Angeles for the World Cup, and Qatar Airways, which is owned by the Qatari government, was like, oh no, we'll sponsor your broadcast and we'll set you guys up in the country. And so they can't come out there and criticize them because of this. And to the point, like, they're not even like dragging the home nation. Like normally, like, you know, this historically bad effort on behalf of the Qatari national team would be fodder for dragging. Be like, yeah, like, this is really embarrassing, like, blah, 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 this or the other thing. No, not a peep from Fox, which is not surprising at all. So, again, Qatar doesn't care how their football team played. What they care about is that all the world's watching them, that they can run all of these, like, oh, like, Qatar's, like, moving them, you know, all these commercials about, like, Qatar's moving civilization forward and this, that, or the other thing. They care about the photo op at the opening game with, you know, the Qatari Emir sitting alongside Gianni Infantino, who's the president of FIFA, and Mohammed bin Salman, who is the fucking crown prince of Saudi Arabia. That's the shit they care about. They couldn't care less about anything that happens on the football field. So, yeah, they have already won. Qatar has. Mark says, how would you rate this year for gaming as a whole? Does it seem like a down year or more of the type of year where indies rose in prominence due to the AAA releases lacking a soul for the most part? I do. I thought that 2022 was going to be a landmark year for games, and I think that what we found is that the year was bookended by two major AAA games in Elden Ring and God of War Ragnarok.
God of War, yeah.
Yeah, and everything else in between that kind of rose was all indie stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
A lot of great indie stuff this year. I mean, look, I had a fucking good year. I got two Pokemon games, two long, full Pokemon games that I really enjoyed between Arceus and Scarlet, despite all of its issues. Fucking Pentiment's probably my game of the year. What else did I play? Monster Hunter Rise expansion. Like, I'm set. I had plenty of shit to play this year. I got Klonoa remakes this year. Are you kidding me? Yo, I can't complain.
Yeah, and again, up or down years in gaming, like, it really does just kind of roll.
It depends
with,
a lot on your taste.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, like this year was a fine year for me. Like, there's a lot of really cool games that came out. They just weren't like, you know, the tentpole blockbusters for the most part.
No.
So, I mean, I got GT7, always a good year to get a Gran Turismo in the mix. Yeah. So, no complaints there. So it was a fine year, but I think that as far as like the blockbuster year that it was shaping up to be early. No, I don't think it landed there because Starfield got moved out into next year and some other stuff as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were expecting both Starfield and the Breath of the Wild sequel to hit sometime this year. Both of those are now next year. So, look, like, plenty of shit to play. I might pick up Tunic.
I definitely want to pick up Tunic. I've been waiting for it to go on sale. I don't think it ever is. So
I have been told by one of my bandmates that I should play Tunic, so yeah. I might do that.
I hope it does. Like I got Death's Door, and that really let me down. So I'm really hoping that Tunic does not fall prey to that because I know they're similar-ish in terms of the style of game, but yeah, we'll see. We end with two questions from Cam, who says first, who is more annoying, soccer guy or football guy? So basically, he's asking, is it more annoying to be the person that insists on calling it soccer or the person that insists on calling it football? Far and away, the more annoying person is the person that insists on it being called football. By like that is just like jingoistic class elitism from people generally in Europe who are just like looking down their nose at you, you filthy American, football fan, you swine. You can't even fucking say the name of the sport correctly. You fucking poser, you loser. Shit like that. When in reality, they're just kind of jealous that, we get this and the NFL, which I hate the NFL, but people in England especially really like the NFL. They're obsessed with the fucking NFL. So yeah, football guy definitely more annoying than soccer. And I'll tell you this because there is no soccer person who gets like offended when you call it football. I've never met that person. Like they'll use the terms interchangeably, but
Yeah.
there are football people who, if you call it soccer, they will immediately correct you, and that's annoying as shit. So that is
Okay.
one.
I was going to say that they are equally annoying,
No.
but I have heard your argument and I am inclined to agree.
Yeah. And then he asks you, Carrie,
Yes.
which new Pokemon is your favorite for this
Oh.
generation? His is Tinkaton, which whatever the fuck that's supposed to be.
Tinkaton's cool. Tinkaton is a little it's a fairy steel type, which is a really fun typing, but it's a cute little sort of like nymph basically
Mm-hmm.
with a huge fucking hammer 4 times the size of its body.
Okay.
And I'm totally on board with that. I God, I really like Sprigatito. We've been over this. I really like Sprigatito. Um, I think God, like it's hard to pick one because there's a few that I really, really, really like. I like Lokix,
Mm-hmm.
which is a bug dark type, which is a fun typing. Lokix reminds me of Common Rider. So I'm super on board with Lokix. I also really like Sharkaday and its 2 different evolution variants. So it can either evolve into Emma Rouge, which is the sort of default that you get in Scarlet because that's the item that you get to evolve it in Scarlet, and Emma Rouge sort of looks like Mega Man. And then in Violet, you can evolve it into Ceruledge, which has these like cool fucking swords and whatnot. Like the whole family tree there, I think, is really really cool. Um, so yeah, I think that's where I'm at. I'm gonna go with like Sprigatito and Lokix are probably my top two, and then the Sharkaday is after that. So
All right.
yeah,
Well, that's it for the
yep,
post office. Thank you guys for submitting your questions into that particular channel on our Discord, which you again can join by going to densepixels.com/fans. If you are in or around the Baltimore area this Friday night, 7 p.m. at the Solars Point Family Center?
multi-purpose center.
Multi-purpose center, where I go to harvest ballots, according to Republicans.
Yep.
You can check out the Baltimore Gaming Symphony Orchestra.
Yep, the Baltimore Gamer Symphony Orchestra is doing our Oops All Indies show for the first time this Friday. And as I've mentioned, it's a really really fun program. We got some big hit games. We're doing Hades. We're doing Undertale. We're doing uh Overcooked. We're doing there's a lot. There's a lot of like big indies.
Undertale, Overcooked, Eastward.
Yeah.
Well,
We
maybe
are
not
not doing Eastward. So that would have been a good one. I mean, there's some big indies that like we just did not have the time for. Like we're not doing Shovel Knight, and we're not doing Cuphead, and we're not doing Hollow Knight, which is like
I'm a
bonkers.
little miffed that you couldn't make time for one Shovel Knight piece in the
Me
in the
too.
orchestra.
I would have really loved to arrange that, but we're doing a lot of other really cool stuff. We have a really fabulous a cappella arrangement of a song from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. We have just an absolutely bonkers orchestral suite for the game Myst. We're doing a lovely Outer Wilds performance featuring some banjo, so that'll be fun. Yeah, we have a journey piece with a cello solo that is just going to rip your heart out. It's so good. I'm really excited for this performance. So hey, it's a free show. You can just show up and enjoy some music for a couple hours on a Friday night. Um, but hey, we got some raffle baskets. We got some fun little themed prize baskets, including like hundreds of dollars worth of merchandise from the Paradise Killer devs that they sent us. So that's fun. So if you want to win some stuff, you can support the orchestra and also maybe go home with a little something something for yourself. But I will be playing bass and guitar on this program, and hope to see some of you guys there.
You can subscribe to this show as well as all the other TNP shows exclusively where you download fine podcasts. You can also go to youtube.com/densepixels, hit the subscribe button there, ring the bell icon so that you always are notified whenever new episodes post. You can head over to twitch.tv/densepixels and follow us as well as our individual accounts. Carrie Suppets Carrie, I am Densepixels Brad, Terrence is Apparition 410. That is going to do it for us this week. As usual, thank you very much for watching and listening, and we'll see you all the next time.
See ya.
You're watching the Dense Pixels YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button while you're here, and make sure you check out our weekly podcast where we discuss the latest gaming news and our impressions on what games we've been playing.